Hi there. Later, bigots get biggity over a trans Star Wars character. But first, the 40th anniversary of the Los Angeles AIDS Walk. More than $92 million raised since it began to help fight the virus and fund support. Los Angeles County has the second largest number of people living with HIV in America. Here's a bit of the promo video featuring Drag Race star Selena Estites.
In 40 years, we have made such extraordinary progress in fighting this virus. But there's still more to go. Ending HIV is achievable in our lifetime, and it starts with you, honey. Let's walk to a healthier tomorrow. Baby, I'm a strut. You can walk, but I'm a strut.
It's thought 5,000 people turned out yesterday for the 2-mile walk down Santa Monica Boulevard. Next, claims more than a fifth of LGBTQ+ women have tried to take their own lives. A survey in the US asking those in a relationship about the effects of misogyny, racism, ableism and other types of discrimination. The rate's more than 4 times that for people overall. Some other findings: 44% say they live with anxiety disorders, more than half experience depression. It's Pride Daily's first birthday on Wednesday, so all this week we're bigging up some LGBTQ+ firsts. Today, the first out transgender manager of a football club. Lucy Clark's in charge of Sutton United's women's team in the UK, and before that, she was the English Football Association's first out trans referee. She credits football with saving her life when she was really struggling with her gender identity. And a new Star Wars book has a transgender character, so of course it means the world's going to end. Secrets of the Clone Troopers features Sister, who's got blue, pink and white armour in the colours of the trans pride flag. Her inclusion's upsetting all the right people who say it's gender cult worship, woke garbage, and blah blah blah, bore off please. Hi there. Later, fighting anti-trans bigots with crickets. But first, the woman told by a doctor she didn't need a smear test because she's a lesbian. Rachel Cox from London's been posting on Instagram.
It's just coming out with all of these assumptions and misinformation about queer sex. If I hadn't have known better, that could have caused real harm. Just makes me worried about how many queer people have been turned away or discouraged from getting smear tests. That is medical negligence.
Smear tests check the health of the cervix and help prevent cervical cancer. The virus that causes the disease can be passed on by any sexual activity. Hundreds of people have been in touch with Rachel and say they've had similar experiences. 2 gay men have been paraded in public and beaten in Nigeria. A video shows them being slapped and insulted by a large crowd because of their sexuality, and blood can be seen. We think the men are a couple. They hold hands throughout. We're bigging up some LGBTQ+ firsts all this week because it's Pride Daily's first birthday tomorrow. So, Valkyrie is the first bisexual superhero in the Marvel comic universe. She made her first appearance in the film Thor Ragnarok in 2019, although a scene that would have confirmed her sexuality was cut, supposedly because it was a distraction, but it is nailed down in the next movie. The character's played by Tessa Thompson, who's bisexual herself. And thousands of crickets have been released into an anti-transgender conference. Led to 600 awful people being evacuated from the LGB Alliance meeting in London. Activists from a group called Trans Kids Deserve Better say they were behind it. Hi there, it's our first birthday. Later, a new film about South African transgender icon Granny Lee. But first, the wife of queer Australian surfing champion Tyler Wright says a competition in Abu Dhabi next year is potentially life-threatening. A new tour schedule includes the United Arab Emirates, where homosexuality carries the death penalty. Lily Wrights posted on Instagram and reckons Tyler's not valued enough by the World Surf League. Bo Newells from Pride in Sport and tells ABC News Australia LGBTQ plus sports people just can't be on top form in these circumstances.
You want your athletes to be their authentic selves. You want them to perform the best they possibly can. And when you put them in an environment like this where homosexuality is illegal, it's no surprise that we're not going to get the best performance out of these athletes.
Tyler, who's bisexual, always wears the pride flag in her jersey in competitions. Would that have to come off in Abu Dhabi? Compensation for LGBTQ plus military veterans in the UK who were mistreated will begin in January. A report last year outlined decades of assaults, bullying, blackmail and expulsions. The armed forces there banned queer people until the year 2000. There's a £50 million financial redress scheme. As I mentioned, today is Pride Daily's first birthday. And all this week, we're bigging up some LGBTQ plus firsts. Today, the first cemetery for lesbians, which opened in Berlin back in 2014. This was created to help increase lesbian visibility and allow them to live together in the afterlife. There are 80 plots within the Lutheran Georgian Parochial Cemetery in central Berlin. And a film's been announced about the life of South African transgender icon Granny Lee. She was big in Johannesburg's underground disco scene in the 1980s and one of the city's most famous drag artists. The film will take place against the backdrop of apartheid and the AIDS epidemic. Hi there. Later, why Ian McKellen is old Queen goals. But first, more than 800 veterans kicked out of the US military for being queer are getting honourable discharges. All to do with a policy known as Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which was a thing between 1994 and 2011. Basically, LGBTQ plus people weren't allowed to serve unless they were closeted. Former Navy Commander Zoe Dunning tells KPIX she had to leave for being a lesbian.
I had served my country honorably and gotten top-rated performance reviews. And by just kind of saying, this is who I am, they were so quick to just turn 180 degrees and initiate discharge proceedings against me. It was really hard to grasp and hard to accept.
The veterans will now be able to access benefits like healthcare, pensions, home loans, and a military burial. Next, as Moldova prepares to vote on EU membership, false claims that'll mean the pride flag has to be flown from government buildings. A yes vote wouldn't suit Russia, which is thought to be interfering in Sunday's referendum. There's a document pretending to be from the European Commission, which says the flag would be raised on 12 significant days each year. Mentions the Day of Remembrance of the Victims of Homophobia, which, like my love for J.K. Rowling, doesn't exist. We're celebrating Pride Daily's first birthday all this week by marking some LGBTQ plus firsts. So, back in 1989, Denmark became the first country to legally recognise same-sex unions. Axel and Eigil Axgill got what was known as a registered partnership, which gave queer couples nearly all the same rights as straight ones. They tied the knot at Copenhagen Town Hall, having already been together for 40 years. And when I'm an old queen, and I'm not far off, I hope I can party like Ian McKellen. The 85-year-old actor's been spotted at Roast, which is advertised as London's beefiest club night. He was photographed posing with two topless men. Hi there. Later, Orlando Pride defies Hurricane Milton. But first, Italy's outlawed going abroad to have a baby through surrogacy, meaning there's now no way for queer couples to become parents. They're already banned from adopting in the country and using IVF. The law is the work of the ruling far-right Brothers of Italy party, which says it's working against LGBT ideology. This gay couple already have a surrogate and tell the BBC they're being forced out of Italy.
I have been trying to be part of this society, being honest in order to be a good citizen, and now you're telling me that I'm a criminal. I'm feeling like being exiled for having done something which is actually normal, so becoming father.
Up to 2 years in prison for breaking the law and fines of as much as €1 million. Transgender and non-binary categories are now part of official documents to report a child's death in the UK. And a question's been added so the gender the child identified with when they died is legally recorded. Up to now, this hasn't been possible for under 18s because they're too young to apply for a gender recognition certificate. These cover the details logged on birth, death and marriage documents. We've been bigging up some LGBTQ plus firsts all this week because it's Pride Daily's first birthday. Today, the film Wings from nearly 100 years ago, which is the first to show two men kissing. US fighter pilots Jack and Dave slowly discover their love for each other, although it's always referred to as a friendship, winky face emoji. The kiss comes just before Dave dies after being injured in combat. Sorry to spoil it for you. And a Pride event in Orlando still going ahead tomorrow, despite the damage caused after Hurricane Milton tore through Florida. Some parts of the city were flooded, while Disney World and Universal Studios had to close. The theme for this year's Come Out with Pride is Colours of Courage, acknowledging the resilience and bravery of queer people. Thanks again for listening over our first 12 months. Love you. I'm Kev McGrath. See you Monday.